Do you ever find yourself on autopilot throughout your day and throughout your life, making decisions without even thinking them through, making decisions habitually or mindlessly? In a recent study of 3,000 people, it is said that 96% of people live on autopilot or live by default. And if you take it a step further, more research says that we make at least 15 mindless decisions each and every day. That's a little under 5,500 decisions a year that we're not thinking through. When you take a moment and you reflect on that and you ask yourself, how do mindless decisions impact my life? Ultimately, you'd probably say, not in a good way. Chances are, if you're watching this, you've probably already made a few mindless decisions today. When to get out of bed, what to wear, when to brush your teeth, what to eat for breakfast. Some of those decisions don't hurt us. Some of them do. The reality is we make mindless decisions because in the moment it's simple. It's not complex, it doesn't cause any confusion, and it doesn't push past our comfort zone. While not pushing past our comfort zone feels good in the moment, in the long term, it's not beneficial for us. While every one of us is alive, clearly because you're watching this, not everyone is living. And what I mean by that is a lot of us are just going through life, letting life and situations and experiences happen to us. And we're not taking control or consciously making decisions that are going to put us on the path to success. We're just allowing things to happen to us, but not controlling what we desire to happen. If you find yourself waking up every day with no sense of direction, no motivation, no goals, nothing to aim towards, you're likely living by default and not by design. While many of us experience that, I have great news. You no longer have to live a limited lifestyle as such. Today, I'm going to share ways that which you can implement in order to live your life by your design and no longer by default. After my divorce, I lived by default. I hate to admit it, but I was at such a stuck place. What I had experienced and what I had gone through and what I felt like happened to me, I allowed it to keep me stuck. I allowed it to keep me in a victim mentality. I allowed it to keep me frustrated. And so the idea of waking up with a purpose or waking up with a plan or a goal or something to go after felt far-fetched. It didn't feel like that was something that I could accomplish anymore. That didn't feel like something that could happen for me. But I'm here to tell you, no matter what has happened to you, no matter what obstacle or hurdle or life situation has come into your life recently, you can still live by design. You don't have to become a victim to the way in which the circumstances are happening to you or what's happening within your life. You can choose to make decisions to set yourself on a path that is going to have you looking forward to waking up, that's going to have you walking in your purpose. A lot of times we believe when bad things happen to us, that's the end. But the way I like to look at it is our life is like a book. And when something happens, that's a chapter, maybe even a page in our story. But that's not our entire book. And we have to learn to separate the two. In fact, a lot of times, the very things that broke us are the very things that it can in turn build us, that can help build us into the people that we need to be. But if we're so focused on living by default and staying stuck and letting life happen to us, instead of flipping around and understanding that life happens for us, no matter what it is, then we'll never be able to move forward. Now, I want you to take a moment and to reflect on where you are. Do you feel like you live intentionally, or do you feel like you let life happen to you? Some key characteristics that you're living by default is you have no meaningful goals or dreams. You have nothing that makes you jump out of bed or excited or motivated. Or maybe you have desires, but you're unwilling to take action, or you're not willing to be consistent. Another key sign that you're living by default is when you stay stuck in that victim place and you want people to feel sorry for you, but you're not willing to move beyond there to see what's next for you. When you think about this, ask yourself, do you fall under any of these categories? If so, that's okay. All you have to do is make a choice to make a change and state that you no longer want to commit to living a limited lifestyle. that you'd like to live a life of purpose, a life of excitement, and a life of your dreams. This is within your reach and is for anyone. So let's talk about how you can begin to design a life you love. The first step to designing a life you love is to create a plan. What is it that you truly desire to do? I like to call it my magic wand question, but if I waved a magic wand and I asked you to think of what it was you wanted to do, location wasn't a problem, money wasn't a problem, nothing was in your way, nothing could stop you, what would you be doing? What motivates you? What inspires you? What do you feel like your purpose is? Take some time to consider that as you create a plan. The second step is to focus on the plan. Ask yourself how you can make this plan a regular part of your daily practice. So if you feel like you are here to write a book, how can you incorporate writing on a regular basis so that you can become a published author? Or if you feel like you're here on earth to go into ministry, who do you need to have in your corner to teach you about ministry? How often do you need to connect with them? How can you make Bible reading a regular practice? Whatever it is, identify what it is that you're here for, create a plan, and hone in and focus on that plan so that you can start to take daily steps to put you in a position to get the desired outcome. Ultimately, you can't hit a target if you haven't even identified it. And that's the problem that I see a lot of times, is that people are just going through life, letting life happen to them. But if you're focused and hyper-focused on something that you desire to achieve, then you're going to have more informed steps and decisions that will put you on the right path. And so this takes a lot of planning. Sit down and ask yourself, what hurdles may get in my way? What habits do I need to break in order to make this a regular practice? What habits do I need to incorporate to make this a regular practice? The third and final step in creating a life and designing a life that you love is taking care of yourself. Now, I can add this to any piece of advice that I want to give you, because the reality is, unless you're good to yourself, you're no good to anyone. And if you have a big goal, or you know that your purpose is here for a reason, you're not going to be able to step into that if you haven't acknowledged and taken care of yourself, because you may struggle with confidence. You may struggle with insecurity. You may struggle with self-esteem. You may not be willing to step out of your comfort zone because you haven't secured yourself. And so it's so important that you incorporate self-care as a regular practice. Slow down and listen to your thoughts and your body. What is it telling you? What do you need? Slow down and pay attention to who's in your environment. Who do you need around you that's going to encourage you and inspire you to be the best version of you? Listen to your thoughts. What is your mind saying to yourself? Is it feeding you positive things or negative things? Learn to conquer and manage those difficult emotions that will keep you stuck or stagnant, or keep you stuck in those same tracks that aren't getting you anywhere. When we're able to connect with ourselves, and I mean fully connect with ourselves and listen to our body, and I mean really listen to our body, we can learn a lot about what we need. And so I recently was meeting with a client who was working on writing a book. And she shared with me that like she had this deadline and she was pushing for the deadline. And the more she did it, the more her body was giving pushback, and she kept ignoring it because she wanted to hit this deadline. She wanted to hit this goal. And the more she ignored her body, the sicker she became. And eventually she came down with a bad case of the flu. But what her body was saying was slow down. After she slowed down and took a long break and was able to really reflect and tune into her body and be more mindful and meditate and journal, she was able to see that there was a crazy amount of ideas that she wanted to incorporate into her book. But she was so focused on getting it done by a certain deadline that she almost missed adding this. And so we have to pay attention to ourselves, especially when we're making significant shifts and changes, such as going from living by default to being more intentional in living by design. Now, I want you to understand that going from living by default to living by design isn't necessarily an easy process, but it's so worth it. A lot of times we play victim to our circumstances, and we believe that because certain circumstances happen to us, we're not good, or we're not worthy, or we are not loved, or we don't have good things coming our way. The reality is we have to learn to step into our power and acknowledge that ultimately we are in control of our life. I tell people all the time, our life is an outward reflection of our thoughts and what we believe that we deserve. And at any point you start to make those shifts and changes, your life will look totally different. And so I challenge you to step into your power. Stop living by default and letting life happen to you, but in turn, understand that life happens for you and design a life you love. Before I go, I have a question for you. How would your life look a year down the road if you continue to live by default? How would your life look 5 years down the road if you continue to let life happen to you? And now I want you to flip that question and ask yourself, how will your life shift if you start to design and create and implement a life that you love, a life that you deserve, and a life that you truly desire? Comment below and let me know. And until next time, I'll chat with you guys later. Make sure you hit like and subscribe before you go.